Alright, so Boker Tov, good morning.
Boker.
You know, when we study Pirkei Avot, the ethics of our fathers, which we do on Shabbat afternoon, between Pesach and Rosh Hashanah. Some have a custom only until Shavuot, but most of the summer we spend studying Pirkei Avot in Jewish communities around the world. Pirkei Avot is a book that is meant to make you a better person. And we always start off with a teaching from our rabbis, a Mishnah that says, Kol Yisrael yesh lahem chelek olam haba. All of the Jewish people have a portion in the world to come. Our rabbis tell us the word kol comes to include also non-Jews. If it just wanted to say Jews have a portion of the world to come, it would have just said Yisrael yesh lahem chelek olam haba. Jews have a portion of the world to come. When it says kol Yisrael, every Jew, in rabbinic Hebrew, kol larbot, it always comes to include someone. Who does it come to include? Anyone who's not Jewish who's also living a righteous lifestyle is also included in the category of those who have a portion of the world to come. I'm sure nobody else teaches that when they teach Pirkei Avot, so I'm making a point of teaching that. Spread it, let people know. And the truth is, it's a strange thing because you're studying ethics of our fathers, and that's a weird place to start. Why do you start there? It's from a book of Sanhedrin in the Talmud. Why there? And my feeling always is, when you study how to become a better person, and it takes studying to do, you can't just on your own wake up and become a better person. Somebody who doesn't ever think of becoming a better person, it's not their fault. They were never even told that improving yourself is something that you need to do in your life. And even those who want to improve themselves, if they lack the right tools or the right people or the right environment, they might be improving themselves in ways that are actually not so much of an improvement for them. They might be going down, they have good motives, but their path they're choosing is not a good one. When we're bettering ourselves, it's very easy to become better by putting everyone else down. It's the easiest way to actually feel like a good person. You just look for what the flaws in anyone else is, and then you all of a sudden, automatically, you become a better person. And our rabbis are warning us, when you study to become better, when you try to become better, it's going to be very easy. There are a lot of people on the road that you can knock and you can bash and you can put yourself over, but that's not the way to become a better person. You might be right. They might not be such great people. That's not your job. It's not why you're here. Our job is to make myself better without judging the person sitting next to me. And once I was watching in a class, somebody was giving for husbands and wives, like a marriage, it wasn't a counseling class, more like how to get along in a relationship. And the whole time there was this woman, she was like elbowing her husband. You hear what he's saying? How do you know he's talking to your husband? Maybe he's talking to you. Maybe when he said, smile, be nice, don't elbow him, you should smile and be nice. Sometimes people are it's so easy to decide for somebody else what they should do to become better, and much more difficult to decide for ourselves what it is that we need to do to be better.
People don't realize their own flaws, though.
Very good. And that's why we have to have someone else to tell us. we have someone else to tell us, or we study it together. That being said, it leads me to the second thing. It's before Rosh Hashanah. And an observation that some have made to me in the last few years that we've been learning together. Somebody once came to me and said, Rabbi, I disagree with the things that you teach. I said, great, take a ticket. What do you disagree with? He said, I have a problem with the fact that you sometimes make Jews look so bad. What do you mean? He said, you say the Jews have problems and the Jews have issues and the Jews have... I said, yeah, well, the Jews have problems? Yes. Well, Jews have issues? Yes. So why can't I speak about them? Because it makes us look bad. It makes us look bad. How do you want to get over our problems and our issues if we don't talk about them? But then I realized that for some people there's this image in their head, the Jews are perfect. We Jews are amazing.
We're the chosen people.
We are chosen, but then tell us chosen for what? I choose, sometimes my wife chooses me to take out the garbage. I don't jump and sing a dance and I'm perfect because my wife chose me to take out the garbage. What are we chosen for is the question. Chosen doesn't mean we're the best of the people. It means we're chosen with a certain mission that God gave us. It doesn't mean we're going to do well in this mission. It doesn't mean we're going to check all the boxes. It means that Hashem gave us a mission and we're trying to do it. It doesn't make us anywhere near flawless. Quite to the contrary. Because we are on a mission, those of us who have flaws end up being very flawed and causing a lot of not just embarrassment, but we pull down a lot of the Jews with us. And I believe that we have the same exact problems as every other person in the world. And if you haven't gotten this from any of my classes, we struggle with the same issues, the same problems, the same human conditions that every other human race in the world struggles with. What's the difference? There is no difference. Aside from that, I firmly believe that in our Torah there's an answer on how to solve these problems. But just being born Jewish doesn't make you a better person. It doesn't make anybody a better person to be born anything. If you want to be born, you can be born whatever you want. But you use the Torah to become better. Use the Torah to become a better human being, a better Jew, a better husband, a better wife, a better friend, a better citizen, whatever it is. Okay, so now you have made, in your own right, you have made yourself a better person. Nobody's born that way. You know, there's a blessing that is said in the morning. I don't know, could be controversial, but we could explain in a different class. The blessing says, "Blessed are you, Hashem, for not creating me a non-Jew." And so somebody once came to Rav Shach, who was a big rabbi in Israel, and said, "I don't understand this blessing. It's so negative. Why don't I just make the blessing, thank you God for making me a Jew?" And Rav Shach said, "You think that you were born a Jew? You think it's so easy to become a Jew? You were born just not a non-Jew. But not everyone gets into this club of people who are Jewish. You gotta work hard. You have to make yourself a better person. The people who use the title Jew makes me better than everybody else. He said, those people are not welcome in our country club. Those people are not who shed a light into the world. He said, you have to make sure that you work, your actions are who's going to make you a better person. There was a famous rabbi in the Talmud who was passing away. And on his deathbed, his son came to him and he said, "Father, can you put in a good word for me with your friends so that when you pass away, I can take your place as the chief rabbi or the chief judge or whatever it was?" And he says, "Absolutely not." He said, "Ma'asecha yikarvucha, u'ma'asecha yirachakucha." Your actions will bring you close, and your actions will take you far away. You have to make these decisions on your own. Just because you were born to nice people, just because you were born in a good family, doesn't mean you're going to be good. Just because you were born to Jewish people, doesn't mean you're going to be a better person than anybody else. It must take strong, hard work and discipline. And our Torah, I believe, has those answers. And when we're studying together, we're studying messages that I believe are for the whole world, not just for Am Yisrael. The whole world has what to learn from this. But we're the bearers of this tradition, and so we have to learn from it first. And so we're starting today.
If we come in as Jewish people, we'll talk just our group now.
Yes.
We come in to elevate ourselves. So regardless of what level we come in at, it's our responsibility to transform and elevate to a pure state.
Absolutely.
A state that has love and compassion and generosity and giving.
Of course, and every person has to work on something different. There's no
right.
one size fits all that everyone has to do or everyone struggles with. But for some people, certain character traits are very easy for them. There are people that are born with a certain inclination towards generosity. And it doesn't make them, just because they're so generous, it doesn't make them such great people. They're going along with their nature. It's the person who's born stingy, who's able to be generous to somebody else with their time, not just with their money, with their time, with their possessions, with their insight. We also shouldn't use our good character traits to be haughty over somebody else. Not always did you work so hard to get there. Sometimes you were just born with it. Some people were born, they do better at school than other people. The high pressure environments and tests make them, it doesn't make them a better scholar or you could look in high school, who gets the best SAT scores and you'll see that not all of those people pan out at the end to be anything special. Not everybody with a 4.0 average comes out to be the guy that you want to be marrying your daughter. Not everybody in the world. And sometimes there's that one that didn't look so good. It was the mediocre student somewhere. And they come out, they really did something with their lives.
Same thing with disposition and temperament. I mean, you've got two little boys now. You're just going to see how their dispositions maybe are alike or different. Anyone that has families sees that. You could have kids in the same family and temperaments and dispositions are completely different.
Absolutely, yeah.
That means there's something they have to work on. That's right there, one of their things.
And our rabbis tell us, Kashem she'en partzufehen domot, just like their faces are not similar to each other. Human beings' faces are different. So too their beliefs, their opinions, their characters, their personalities are not the same. You can't expect everybody, just like nobody has the same face, nobody has the same heart, nobody has the same soul. You have to give every person that ability to find out who they are. And that's why we're studying about marriage and relationships. Last week, we mentioned that marriage is perhaps a relationship. Being in a relationship with another human being is perhaps the biggest workout lesson on becoming a better person. When you are on your own, when you're on your own,
It's easier.
it's much easier. Hey, you can do whatever you want. You can eat whatever you want, sleep whenever you want, throw your clothes wherever you want. You can, You know, when I was living a single life in Jerusalem, I hate doing the dishes. I don't mind loading the dishwasher. I love loading the dishwasher. I hate doing the dishes by my own hand. My wife grew up in a house where only lazy good-for-nothings use the dishwasher. So I'm the lazy good-for-nothing who uses the dishwasher. I don't have a problem with it. But in Jerusalem, I couldn't afford a dishwasher, so I had a sink. And you know, sometimes my mother would come to Jerusalem. My roommate would say, "Oh, it's great that your mother's coming to visit." I said, "Why?" So finally, all the dishes in the sink are gonna get washed. They've been sitting there for 2 months, you know. But sometimes when you're single, you can do whatever you want. There's nobody to challenge you. Somebody's like, the way you snore, good for you. I like to get out of my house. Why? When you're single, you're not forced into positions, and it's not just single as in a relationship. There are people who isolate themselves from anybody in general. They work from home, they do things alone, they exercise alone, they eat alone, everything they do alone. That person is never in a situation where they have to be anybody else than who they feel in the spur of the moment they want to be. Any kind of relationship you're in, from a marriage to anything else, challenges you to be a better person, to work on your character traits, to discover some flaws that you might not have even known were flaws until you married somebody, until you became a business partner with somebody, until whatever it is. It's a midot workout, a character trait workout. And that was the note Rav Peretz left us off with in his introduction. And he starts us off with an essay that I've been meaning to learn with you for all these months, but we've been doing an introduction until now. Today is the first day of the essay, called Shalom V'Achva, which is peace and joy. A relationship is not just enough that people should be working out with each other. And I think that many people have this impression that, okay, as long as we don't break the dishes every week and, you know, we can go out every once in a while for a dinner, we're okay. A relationship is supposed to be the best part of your life. The relationship that you're in should be the happiest place you ever are. You know, if someone says, who's your best friend? And it's not your spouse, then it just means that there's a lot more that needs to happen in that relationship. How could there be somebody in my life that I love more than the person I chose to spend the rest of my life with? But it's not always that way because of the human condition. The human condition has a lot of things that it throws in our way. We have a lot of character issues that people don't resolve. People don't go get the help they need to get help on. People are not aware that I'm really here. We said this last week. I'm really here to do good to another person. I was given an opportunity to dedicate my entire life to do good for somebody else. I mean, if I wanted just to live for myself, if I wanted to just do good for myself, I would never have gotten married. What's the point of getting married? And you ask anybody who's been married, they'll tell you, don't do it. Don't do it, it's dangerous.
Excuse me?
Yeah.
Who said that?
Half the people at my wedding. The other half were dancing because they were laughing at me.
No kidding.
No, Baruch Hashem. Sometimes there are people you'll meet many married people that are very resentful. And they joke a lot. But you know when they make a joke
really
about a wedding, it's not really a joke.
Mm-hmm.
Underneath, everyone's laughing because sometimes we all struggle with those issues. Sometimes we've all been in that situation, in that place. And that's okay. That's normal.
What am I doing here?
Those are two people that are put together. It's like taking any two people. Imagine taking two people, throwing them in a room. There was a famous story. I may have shared this with you already. In Rome, when the Romans took over Jerusalem, a famous princess came to speak to one of the great rabbis in Jerusalem, and she said, "What is so special about your God? What can he do that I can't do?" And he said, "You know what he can do that you can't do? He can match two souls together." And she's like, "I can match two souls together too." He said, "I don't believe you." She said, "Watch." She had 400 slaves. She took 200 men and lined them up in a row. 200 women and lined them up in a row and said, "The person across from you, you're getting married to them." And she made 200 weddings that night. Everyone went to their special houses that she had built for them together. And the Talmud says the next morning, one came out limping. The other one came out with a black eye. The other one came out crying her eyes out. Said everybody came out with a different problem. Said just because you force two people in the same room doesn't mean you match two souls together. And in our life, when we're together with another person, and we really believe that we're two souls that were meant to be journeying on this path together, then that takes a lot of maintenance. But there's no greater feeling. There should be no greater joy than knowing I met my other half. And if I didn't meet my other half, or I thought I met my other half and it didn't really work out so well for me, all that means is that was one step closer to meeting the other half. And B'ezrat Hashem, I want to read to you the next paragraph. Kvod ishto. What do our rabbis say about respecting one's wife? When I was in high school, the yeshiva that I went to, the style in that yeshiva was study more Torah, pray longer, I don't know, keep Shabbat better. That was the attitude of the yeshiva. Like most rabbinic schools in the world, that was that, be a more religious person. And when I came to Israel, I think that one of the first speeches I ever heard from Rabbi Peretz was, who cares if you're religious? Who cares if you keep Shabbat? Who cares if you eat kosher? And you make your wife's life miserable. And that was the time. It's true. Nobody in the old yeshiva would have disagreed with that statement, but it's something I never heard before. It's something that nobody ever put out there. He once threw somebody out of rabbinic school. The story is a pathetic story, but it was a true story. This guy had come home. His wife was 8 or 9 months pregnant, and she was mopping the floors in the house. And he comes home and says, I want pizza for dinner. She said, okay. Pick up a phone. Order pizza for dinner. No, you order pizza for dinner. And I'm in the middle of mopping the floor. And then he got in a heated argument, screaming, you're good for nothing. It's so loud that the next door neighbor heard it and called the yeshiva. And now Peretz threw the guy at the yeshiva. You're trying to be a rabbi, so you're not even a human being. So your wife is pregnant, she's mopping the floor. So you can't take the mop and mop the floor? So you can't order your own pizza for a pizza you're going to fight with your wife? So what did she do in her life to deserve such a miserable good-for-nothing like you? Now you may find it harsh, but in yeshiva you're expected that somebody's going to put you in place. That's why you're there. Somebody's supposed to put you in order. But never in my life did somebody say those things until I met Halev Peretz. And so when I was speaking with one of my cousins in Tel Aviv, and he told me, women in Judaism are very oppressed. I'm sure he got it from somewhere. I'm sure one of his teachers told him that. I'm sure his parents may have told him that. And I'm sure that he may even feel that certain elements of how he perceives Judaism might lead him to such a conclusion. I want to read to you what the Jewish rabbis say about a relationship. Amu Chazal, the rabbis tell us in the Talmud. Ha'ohevet ishto ki gufo. If a person loves his wife more than himself, v'amechabda yoter megufo, but more than loving a person, I see many people that are in love, but there's always that one personality who he makes all the decisions. It's his way or the highway, and you have certain women who kind of step into that role of whatever my husband says, that's what I do. Sometimes you see a spirit that was once courageous, that was once bold, that once had life, and she's like a deflated balloon. And I'm not coming here from a place of feminism, but a place of humanity. And what healthy relationship is one person always making the decisions and the other person always following their decisions? They're not a human being. They're not worth consulting with. They don't have a chance to share what they need to say. It says that our rabbis that more than loving her, if you respect her more than you respect yourself. So loving her, how much do you have to love her?
More than you love yourself.
As much as you love yourself. Okay. You have to love her as much as you love yourself. But to respect her more than you respect yourself. Allah v'katuv omer, about such a person, the verse says, V'yadata ki shalom a'olecha. You should know that your house, your home, will be full of peace. Bi'ur sabed, what does that mean? Ha'ohevet ishto ki gufo, en muvano sug ahavat ish leisha. It says when our rabbis use the word love, they're not using the Hollywood definition of love. It's not where are these flies coming from?
Yes,
It's just
several.
circling your head.
One.
Is it my head?
No,
It's
it's just you.
It's one and it comes visiting.
Okay.
It's coming full circle.
The Kabbalists say that sometimes little bugs show up, they have reincarnations of spirits. I don't know if I believe in it, but this one, wherever his reincarnation is, he can go home.
Yeah, he just came visiting here.
It's the CIA.
That's a conspiracy theory right there. And moving on, we're not talking about Hollywood love. אלא אהבת קרובה, אחווה ורעות.
Push it fly away.
Yeah.
Rather, we're talking about a love of closeness, a love of joy, and a love of friendship. What's the difference between love of passion and a love of closeness? A love of friendship.
Passion's temporary.
I think a lot of them will use the word love. I love her. Yeah, but then you broke up with her 2 weeks later. Did you really love her? The
No.
word love for you was infatuation in a 4-letter word.
You were like,
You were in like. In other words, there's a term falling in love in English. Sometimes that's what people do. They're falling. They're not thinking straight. They're falling in love. Their brain stops working and they get themselves involved in all kinds of places they shouldn't be. The word in Hebrew, we're referring to Rabbi Yonatan as to love. You're my best friend. You're if I want to be close to somebody in this planet, it's going to be you. That's why the Torah tells us that when a person gets married, a person must leave his parents. Why do you have to leave your parents to love your wife? Why are those relationships? It doesn't mean leave them for good. It means that you can no longer be. When you're young, so your parents are your whole life. They're your world. They're who they're who you share your secrets with. But when you get married, that kind of closeness is reserved for your spouse, and you're gonna have to make a choice in life. And the choice is my wife, is my husband always gonna feel that I love my mother more, that I love my father more, or do they know that I come first? Even if I love them, of course you love your parents, but there's a certain closeness that only a husband and a wife can have with each other, and that's reserved only for each other. A person is commanded to love their spouse like themselves. With this, a person fulfills the directive, you must love your fellow like yourself. She yisod kol Torah. It is the foundation of the whole Torah. Do you remember that a convert once came to Hillel and said, Hillel, convert me, but I want you to teach me the whole Torah while I'm standing on one foot.
Correct.
Shammai threw him out. He said, you're crazy. With the whole Torah on one foot. You can spend your whole life studying Torah and you wouldn't study the whole Torah on one foot. He then says, you know what? You hate being done to yourself. Don't do it to another person. Rabbi Akiva said, "V'afta l'reacha kamocha," loving your fellow like yourself. Ze klal gadol b'Torah. This is the rule, the fundamental principle of the Torah. He then said, "This, everything else is just a commentary.
That's right.
Everything else.
It's not so simple.
It is not so simple."
Because, and that's where the Jews were very good at making their bylaws and all these other little things. So, you take the Palestinians, we're not so kind to the Palestinians, but then again we justify, you don't have to be kind to the Palestinians because we have a rule that says if they try to kill you, you've got to protect yourself, and so it becomes a web, right? It's not so simple. I mean, if we lived spread out in the mountains, the Jewish people, and each of us could just take the Torah and hold it and work with it individually and with our relationships, with our families, etc., etc., etc. We could all do the work, you know?
Rabbi Shlomo Kabach
But
was once giving
then the world shows up.
Rabbi Shlomo Kabach was once at a concert, and he got into the microphone and said, "Who wants world peace?" Yeah, and I was like, hippies, and everyone was like, "Wait, what? Who wants world peace?" Yeah, everyone's cheering, and there's 3 times he asked them. He says, "Okay, so hug the person standing right next to you." And the place went quiet. Because that jerk who spilled the popcorn on me, that's the one I should hug. The one who was talking on her cell phone behind me in the movie theater, that's the one I should hug.
Do that? Yeah.
It's much easier to talk about loving everybody than actually putting it into action. It's very true. It's a very true thing. And here, as you mentioned, I don't know that I agree with your statement, but I can still comment on it. The Rosh Hashanah of 2009, I was walking in the old city. We used to pray in our yeshiva at sunrise. So, really, it was dark when you go to, you have to go before sunrise to pray. So give it about 4:30 in the morning, something like that. I was walking with my talit to services, and it's Ramadan season in Jerusalem. And I'm alone in the streets of the old city. And I was walking in a little alleyway, I could show you where, next to a little pizza shop. And a group of about 40 Muslim men are coming from the Temple Mount with their carpets over their shoulders. And they just finished their morning services in Al-Aqsa Mosque. I'm alone. It's the Jewish quarter, yes, but I'm the only Jew right now awake in the Jewish quarter. Everyone else is at the kotel already. And I won't lie to you, I was scared. And I had right to be scared. It was the alleyway was perhaps the size of this table. This narrow, it's a tiny little place. And I just said, you know, listen, I'm just going to squeeze by against the wall. I was pushed a little bit. People nudge you with their shoulders, with their get out of my way kind of feeling. The last guy in the group stopped. He turned around to me and he said, Shana Tova. Yeah, Happy New Year. I never responded to him because I was like so, I was in this like place of, what do you do? What do you say? And he already walked away with his group. And I just thought about it at that moment that if we don't have to be friends, we don't have to love each other. Nobody asked us to become roommates. If we could just wish each other a Shana Tova every once in a while, have a good year, we might be better off.
I agree.
But I don't believe that you're ever going to solve that problem
Never.
on a political level, on a
Never.
grand
Never.
scheme.
Never.
I believe that every person and their relationship with their neighbors, their relationship with the person living next door to them, with the person across the street from them, you can only change the world around you. Everybody else has their responsibility. And I believe that, and ever since that story, I made a point always of whoever it was, wishing them a good morning, wishing them a good afternoon, wishing them a Shana Tova,
I like that.
wishing them Ramadan Kareem, whatever. Wish somebody something. It's not going to hurt you to just smile and make another person's day feel good. Loving your fellow like yourself, Rabbi Chaim Vital, who's the student of the Arizal, he says the mitzvah of loving your fellow like yourself does not apply to any other human being except for your spouse. What does that mean? That doesn't mean you shouldn't love everybody else. It means your biggest test in life will be to try to follow this directive while being married to somebody else. To love them like yourself.
It's a big order to fill.
It's a huge order.
It's a huge order.
Oh my God.
באשתו יותר מהכל יהודי של ישראל. I must love my spouse, my wife, more than any other person in the world.
Excuse me.
This is a very simple level.
You can't always love them. Sometimes you're angry at them. You don't feel
But
like
sometimes you're angry at them because you love them, because you wish that they were better,
that's true.
Yes,
because you have
that's
such
true.
high expectations of them, right? That's
High
why.
Maybe they'll
That's
go away
true.
like a bad dream, you know?
Not like that.
50%
when
of the
you love-
population sends them
When you
away.
love your spouse, you're fulfilling what it says, "Al ken ya'azov ish et aviv et imo v'davak b'ishto v'yu lebasar echad." Hashem says we must leave our parents and cling to each other and become one flesh. You've seen couples like this before. You might even be one of those couples, where you give inspiration to other people about what it means to be married to each other. You know you're going to ask one person one question, and the other one's going to be in another room, and you're going to get the same answer from them. There are two people who have made their whole life one. One. It's hard to make your life one, because letting go to the point where you trust someone, there's this game that they play in school, in camp, where there's somebody behind you, and they have their arms out, and you're supposed to close your eyes and fall backwards. And you're supposed to trust the person behind you is going to catch you. If you do this with any group of people, you take the synagogue on Yom Kippur right before Kol Nidrei, and you would say, let's play this game. And you have one person standing behind another person. The amount of people that would just close their eyes and fall backwards, free fall, it's a study in psychology. It's a study in human behavior. Just to watch. It's really difficult.
It's very hard.
Now you know they're standing right there. I'm not asking you to trust me with your bank account. I'm not asking you to trust me with your personal history, with your life, with your past, with your medical issues. Just trust me with falling backwards into this person.
I used to do that with my grandchildren. I said, I can't do it. I
I've
said,
done that.
you have to trust me. You have to trust Grandma. And after a while they did, and it went all the way to the ground. But they knew that I was going to catch them.
So
Yeah,
they
it's
say
a
the
great
only
exercise.
one that will always be there to support you is your chair. You know, that's the. And sometimes that's how people feel. But the truth is, and I believe this is I was just recently talking to a couple that's going through a divorce. And listen, divorce is not easy. The reason why people decide to disband something that they got themselves into, it's not always because they just decided that they want to move on to a better life. Sometimes there are some really tough things that happen. Some really pressing issues that make them want to get divorced. Still, there were good times. There was a time where you two were friends, where you two decided that you want to be married to each other. And when they come into a courtroom, when they go to their friends, when they come to their rabbis, and they're willing to share every dirty thing, every secret, everything that was told in confidence to them when things were going well, it really makes you question the integrity of a person. Who cares? You're never gonna see them again. You never want to know them again. You want to make sure you change your last name 3 times away from their last name. That's fine. But there were things that were told to you in the middle of the night on a vacation somewhere on your honeymoon. Nobody deserves to know that information.
Agreed.
You were told this in confidence, and the very least as a human being is to have the integrity to be just like you wouldn't want someone else to run around town slinging mud at you though. So it's not working out, so don't. This not doesn't have to work out. Nobody's making you work it out. In this country, you live in a place where getting divorced is a possibility. There are cultures where it can't happen. You don't live in that kind of culture. But to ruin another person's good name, well, what do you get out of it? You just come off as a disgusting person and I can't speak about this. It's not even, forget if it was just divorce. How many high schoolers they share a picture with somebody they didn't want to share. They share, and it's called cyberbullying.
Yes.
There are kids who, just now a girl committed suicide.
Yes, that is correct.
There was a 9-year-old who committed suicide
But
because he was
what-
bullied.
I mean, what kind of world do you live in where somebody... And also, if my 9-year-old was sending those kind of pictures to another 9-year-old, we'd have to have a different conversation about 9-year-olds. But it happened. It was. That's what it is. That's the world that people are raising their kids in. Where is your child that they don't have the decency to know that when someone shared something with you in confidence, it's in confidence? It's a terrible thing. It's a terrible thing. When 2 people are with each other, they have to become one flesh. What that means is, I must trust you knowing that what I share with you, no matter what happens to us in the future, you will always remain with your integrity. And I believe the reason why many people are not in those kind of relationships, we don't trust people so much. We have a very hard time trusting somebody. We've been burnt too many times in the past.
Do you
to
think
do it
it's
again.
more now than ever before?
I do.
Because of society?
So we've spoken about this before. I don't have a study. I didn't do a study what it was like 100 years ago. I've told you that in this generation, the potential of having a beautiful relationship is 1,000 times more than 100 years ago. Because today, choosing who you want to be in a relationship with, what kind of relationship you want to be in, you have a lot more choices nowadays than you used to have. It used to be like 2 people, you're stuck together, doesn't make a difference. It used to be that people never got divorced from each other. Not because they loved each other. It wasn't a thing that was done. There was a huge stigmas surrounding people who got divorced. So I can't tell you that the quality of a relationship is better, but the assurance that this package wasn't going to fall apart perhaps was much greater. And therefore knowing that pride and social standards and what other people should know about us, hanging your dirty laundry out in public. Today people put their dirty laundry out on Facebook for the world to see. Used to be nobody spoke, even if something was bad, nobody spoke about it. It doesn't mean it's a good thing, but it could mean that people trusted each other a little bit more. It could mean. I don't know that I'm right, but it could mean. And that might lead to a relationship where people shared more. That could be. Yeah, there's people come and tell me something that someone else told them in confidence. Don't tell anybody, but someone told me. I am never going to tell you one of my secrets. I have such people, I know them by the way. When I need other people to know something, I tell them my secrets. Like if, we're having a big fundraiser at Kehillat Shaar HaShamayim, don't tell anybody. Those are 3 hours later, my phone will be ringing off the hook, right? That's the kind of thing. So sometimes you need those people for the wrong purposes.
Here's the irony, in my view. We all come in with the lessons we have to learn. They're all unique. They're all different. Let's just take America, 325 million unique and different lessons, and you don't know what she's working on. I don't know what you're working on, or she, or da-da-da-da-da. So, you're against anyone gossiping, and then this one comes and gossips you, or spreads the word, or this and that. Maybe she's working on her thing, but you've got an aversion to that. It's if you think about it, it's insane. It's almost humorous.
But it
It's
makes for
almost
a very complicated and sophisticated world. But that's part of being human.
Yeah, it's part of being human.
So I was once in somebody's house, and his wife wanted to go to the grocery store to shop, so he took out $1 bills from his wallet and counted them out for her. You have $22. And they were not poor people. Do not get me wrong. They're not people that had to count out their dollars. And there's still families where that works that way, where the man has all the money and his wife gets some kind of... I don't live in such a relationship, so I don't understand it. But I'm sure that such a thing still exists. In my relationship, my wife is the one who brings the allowance. she's the one who supports us. But there are people who are really stingy with their spouses, and it's not always the husband. Sometimes the husband wants to go spend on something. He wants to go do something. He wants to buy something, and his wife will. That's what you spend your money on. This is what. It's like, no, he goes to work 9 hours a day, so he could buy once in a while something he wants. Not everything in the world you have to micromanage for him. Not everything he eats, you have to decide what he's going to eat and what he wears. You can tell what he's going to wear, and then what time he showers and how long he. Not everything in the world you have to tell him what to do. On a very simple level, there are people who disrespect their spouse by not giving them the independence that they deserve. And the Rambam writes it in the following words. Respecting someone more than your body, the simple level of this, more than you respect yourself, both of them should let each other buy clothing that they like to wear, that they want to wear. I know this sounds funny. I cannot tell you how many times I see couples fighting. I can't believe he wore that shirt in public. I can't believe it. That's the ugliest shirt he has in his whole closet. What do you care what kind of shirt he's wearing? And what if he told you he didn't like the kind of shoes you wear? How would you feel about it? Who is he to tell me what kind of shoes to wear? That's such a stupid thing to even talk about. The fact that you two are sharing this spiritual life journey together and all you can talk about is each other's clothing is, yes?
I criticize my husband all the time. I say, what are you wearing that for? You look like a
I
schlozo.
used to
I
be
did
very
too, all
appalled
the
by
time.
the way my husband dressed when he went to the beach. You would have thought he was going to a salon. And finally I got through to him, and he's like a clothes horse now.
Oh, that's
He
good.
dresses better than I do.
Oh, this is funny. This is a funny story. When my husband and I first got married,
I didn't know I touched the short topic.
I would buy my husband things and he would refuse to wear it. And I said, if you don't like it, go to the store and return it. This is my taste. You asked me to buy something. This is what. He said, and he would wear it. And then he'd get compliments from other people. Oh, you look good today. Did your wife dress you? Never shops again. Never. I do all the shopping. And then if he doesn't wear something I like, that really.
I took Elchanan to school last week, and he walks in the classroom, and the teacher's looking at him. I said, yeah. She said, who dressed him today? I said, yours truly. Nothing is matching. Not his socks to his pants to his shirt to his ponytail holder. Nothing is matching. I said, good. When his mom dresses him, he'll look like a mensch. And the next day she dressed him. But so what? This is what you're gonna. I understand that it's. I understand that people care. That people are. It's important for them.
I like your other white shirt better than this one.
I'll tell you a funny story about a white shirt. On this boat we were on, they had a talent show the night before the boat was in. And it was a talent show, and it was also the captain's dinner, right? All the men, right, at least 50 men on the boat, there were 100 people, they're all wearing a jacket. My Bill, the best he could do was a white shirt. And his scarf even And I'm thinking to myself, all right, well, we're the hippies on the boat. Okay, fine. So after dinner, we go to the other room, and there's the talent show. And unbeknownst to me, he had
Bill was part of the talent
signed
show?
up for the talent show, right? And he stood up there and he whistled Amazing Grace.
Really?
And he had
Wow.
everybody
Amazing.
sing Amazing Grace. And he had everybody out of
Wow.
all the talent shows standing up. And I thought to myself, I did this whole thing in my head.
The
We're
white shirt, right?
looking for a chazan for the high holidays. Call it.
It's like, oh God, this is the best we could do. Because we only take one small little suitcase. There's no way the jacket
That's
was
amazing.
When I was dating my wife. So
Had to
the
concede that
first
one.
date, you have to come. The protocol is you come with your suit, with your Shabbat clothing, your hat, the whole thing. I hate wearing my hat. I'm not gonna lie to you. If you let me wear that hat, I'll wear it a lot. But if you make me wear one of those black hats, I hate wearing such hats. So the second date, okay, we did it again. Hotel lobby, cup of tea, coffee. The third date, I want to take her out to a restaurant, but to get to the restaurant, you have to walk for 45 minutes. I don't want to walk in a suit and a tie and a hat. So I called the matchmaker and I said, do you mind asking her if it's okay if I don't wear my hat? I didn't know her well enough at this
This
point
is
in
you?
time. Yeah, my
Yeah.
wife. And she calls back and says, I don't know how to tell you this, but she said you could wear your underwear on your head for all she cares, as long as you come to the date. And that's when I knew. That's when I knew I found the right person.
That's a lovely
I
story.
did not wear my underwear on my head.
That's a beautiful story.
But it's important. It's important if you want to know each other. So the first impression was important. Yeah, you wanted to dress nice, fine. But after this first impression, you don't have to keep fooling each other for the rest of your lives. Now you could be yourself a little bit more. It's an important thing. But more than that, it's the higher level of respecting a spouse. Linhog iman biyoker v'haracha, with treat her like someone precious, who's valuable to you, who you respect, who you look up to. Rabbi Akiva Eger, alav shalom. Rabbi Akiva Eger was like that staunch, ultra-Orthodox Lithuanian rabbi you read about in the storybooks from Poland. This is old school. In his diary, he writes that all of his ethics, morals, and Jewish philosophy he learned from his wife.
Yeah, but he left her for 35 years, and then
Oh,
wasn't that
No,
Rabbi
no.
Akiva?
Yeah, it was.
This is Rabbi
Yeah,
Akiva
but this
Eger.
Oh,
Fast forward like
oh.
1700
Okay,
years.
speaking of Rabbi Akiva.
Yeah, like
No wonder he learned everything from her. They spent a week together and then he left.
He knew everything he needed to do.
He was a fast learner.
like 300 years ago, Rabbi Akiva Eger. For the record, the story they tell about Rabbi Akiva leaving his wife for 24 years. Rabbi Akiva had many children from his wife, and so chances are he didn't actually leave her for 24 years. And the story you're hearing is an inaccurate portrayal of a story that was in
It's
Talmud.
difficult to have all those kids if he was gone all that time.
Very good, and therefore there must be a different understanding
You
of the
come
story.
back once a year.
And I have to look here in the commentaries. But with Rabbi Akiva Eger, 1700 years later.
Okay.
Yeah. Rabbi Akiva Eger writes in his diary that he learned so much. He was the leader of Lithuanian Jewry. But his wife was the one who he felt that he learned his Torah from. I was at the grave of the Piaseczna Rebbitzin. The Piaseczna Rebbe was a great Hasidic Rebbe. Rabbi Klonimus Kalman Shapira was murdered by the Nazis. His wife was also murdered by the Nazis, and his son was murdered by the Nazis. And first his wife, then his son, and then him. He buried his books in the Warsaw ghetto, underground by a certain tree, and they were found by a Polish boy who sold them to an African American soldier, who
Correct.
gave them as a gift to the chief rabbi of the military, the chaplain, who was in Germany at the time, and he published those works. I have many of his works in my bookcase, but they came from that story. On his grave, on the grave of his wife, it says she was my friend. She was the one who I studied Torah with.
How did they find
And-
her body if she was buried in Auschwitz?
It seems like where
No,
they
she
were
was in the Warsaw ghetto, not
seems
in
like-
Oh, she was in the ghetto.
in the ghetto, they
Yeah.
still allowed at a certain point in history. I don't know the history well enough
they allowed
to
them
bury
bury.
people in the cemetery. I don't know. I mean, I didn't know that
And
until
they
I
I
was
didn't
there.
know
destroyed
that.
that cemetery.
Yeah,
Is the cemetery still there?
sure. I was there. Absolutely.
It's there.
Yeah.
Wow, I didn't know that. I
And-
thought they.
And he says, and she was an expert in Chassidut, in Hasidic and Kabbalistic literature. Now, that's not a crazy thing, but in Poland or Russia or Hungary of 1920s, that wasn't what a Hasidic Rebbitzin looked like. That wasn't what she was. But to treat a person, not just like, don't just be generous with them. Don't just give them nice food. Treat your spouse like they're a person that you look up to. They're a person whose opinion you value. A person who you appreciate what they have to say about something. That respect goes much longer than letting them wear what color. They'll give up the colored shirt that you don't like if you can respect them and give them the dignity as a human being of being an equal partner with you in a relationship. It should be a normal thing in your mouth. I'll get back to you after I talk to my spouse. It's okay to say such a thing. Everything in it's okay. I'll get back to you after I talk to my spouse. What do you think about this? I have an opinion. I don't know what my wife has to say about it. What do you have to say about it? It's an important way to speak. It's an important way to be. You're not just a king tut living on your throne. There's a relationship that has to be here.
But hold on 2 seconds. That meaning that you can't really give an opinion until you speak to the other person before an opinion.
No, you are not restricted. You are respecting. And that means you can give whatever opinion you want. But there's a certain way to give an opinion. You're sitting at a Shabbat table, your spouse is sitting right next to you. Someone asks you a question. When you speak, you very often come off as speaking for your spouse also.
That's true.
And so either you consult with your spouse, you know what they're going to say, or you also give them the equal chance as you to explain what it is that they feel about something.
Give a specific question that you might ask at a Shabbat table that could affect.
Who are you voting for? No, I'm just kidding. Please do not tell me who you're voting for. I don't want to hear it, okay?
Go there.
And you would ask a question about, we had a question about technology. Is the world too addicted to their cell phones? And my wife and I differ strongly about this. And if someone would hear me speak
but
about...
I'm right.
See, if somebody would hear me speak about technology, they'll know maybe my wife agrees. She absolutely disagrees with me. Absolutely. And so whenever I speak about it, I give her a chance to present her false arguments. And she's able to present her side of the story to everybody. But that respect that you give another person, I'm more than just the dishwasher. I'm more than just the bread earner. I'm also another human being who has an opinion, who has a say in this household.
Who was that rabbi that you had called about Kitniyot?
Oh, no. There's a famous rabbi in Israel. His name is Harav Dov Leo. He is a rabbi, was the rabbi of Kehillat near Hebron. And he remarried. His wife passed away. He married somebody else whose husband was a rabbi and passed away. So a rabbi and a rebbitzin, but they got married in a second relationship. And he is famous for being one of the few Ashkenazi rabbis who permits Ashkenazi Jews to use, not to eat rice and corn and beans on Pesach, but to eat any derivative of these things on Pesach. So even though Ashkenazim can't have corn, he says Ashkenazim are allowed to have corn syrup. Even though Ashkenazim can't have, beans, they can have soy sauce. Whatever it would be. Mm-hmm. This is his opinion. And so once somebody was so appalled, how could this Ashkenazi rabbi hold such a crazy thing? So he called the rabbi and said, is this Rabbi Dov Lior's home? Yes. Is he home? He's not home. Who's speaking? The rebbitzin. Is it true that the rabbi holds that Ashkenazim are allowed to have corn syrup? That's correct. This is the rabbi's opinion, but he's wrong. And my opinion is that you're not allowed to. Have a wonderful Pesach. And she hangs up the phone. But I'm sure he didn't mind. Because that was his opinion. And she had her opinion. And I'm sure the house that came to some conclusion about what it is they do or don't do in their home. But you don't have to always be this one person is deciding, one person is saying, one person is speaking. There are two parts in any relationship. And both those parts have to have equal say and discuss things together. People will appreciate that more than anything else you could do for somebody. My brother Sheva Brachot. Someone asked a stupid question of advice on what to do when you're mad at each other. I know I've brought this up here before. It's still a stupid question. The answers are more stupid than the question. Well, whenever you make your wife upset, go buy her a rose. Whenever you make your wife upset, go buy her a box of chocolates. Whenever you make your wife upset, take her out for ice cream.
I'd have a lot of chocolate.
Tell me something.
He would own stocks in Hershey's.
Tell me something. Is she your third grader or she's your wife? What is she? She's the bat mitzvah kid or she's your wife? And I got up and after I gave a speech and I said, I'm sorry to disrespect everybody in this room, but I think you guys are all crazy. I said, you married somebody. She's an intelligent, thinking human being. You made her mad. Sit down and have a conversation with her. Talk to her what it is that I did wrong. Please, I want to work it out for the future. Why did nobody give you that advice? Why, buy her, what is she, a pet? You're going to go buy her a bone and let her...
Most people
what
can't
is this?
do that. I've seen that over the years. Most people just can't.
But what does that say about the relationship?
But it says, aside from the relationship, what does it say about the person?
Yeah.
They can't do that. Because with that person, that also shows up in their work somehow, right?
Yeah.
It shows up
In everything in their life.
with
It
their
manifests
tennis
everywhere.
partner. It manifests.
Well, most people like avoiding things that are uncomfortable.
That's right.
And having a real conversation is very uncomfortable.
Mhm.
Right.
That's right.
That's right.
It's much easier for both parties to just pretend to forget.
Sweep
Right.
it under
Yeah.
the table.
Uh-huh.
But that's it's a game then. It's not a
But
real
that's
relationship.
not living your life.
Yeah, but in short term, it's much more comfortable.
It's existing.
It's much easier.
That's
No,
right.
but
It is.
existing is not the way to live.
That's the
But
whole
it's
point. This
conversation.
essay is called
Right.
Peace and joy. There has to be joy, not just peace in a religion, also joy. It should be the best thing that ever happened to
There's
you.
the ideal that you strive for, right? And you always make an effort to move towards that. And then there's the varying levels of reality couples struggle with and live with on the way to get to the more.
That could be the reason, like you're saying, the reason why people don't talk could be that one spouse, when you try to talk to them, is very volatile. They blow up when you bring up something that they're uncomfortable talking about. So you would love to have this kind of relationship, but you still haven't found a way to communicate with him in a way that is actually constructive and not destructive. That's true, but then that means that they should reach out to somebody who can help maybe guide them down this road. There has to be this ideal of communication as the basis of any normal relationship.
What do you
It
do
must be.
inside the family if you have a kid that has, temper tantrums because he's a severe ADHD kid? Would you have a conversation with a 10-year-old normally?
No, you can't.
Well, I'm just saying, so
Every
so
situation calls for its own.
oftentimes when you're raising kids like that, that transfers over into the relationship
with
between the husband and wife. That they don't. That's what I've
They
seen.
tell a story once about a man who went traveling for business. It was the first time he ever left his house for more than a week. I told his wife, I said, listen, I'm heading out of town. I want you to take care of my office. Some phone calls are going to come in. Just do me a favor. Don't open the second drawer. Don't touch it. It's not for you. Don't look in the second drawer. She said, okay, don't worry, I won't open the second drawer. And every day she'd go there, she'd answer his phone calls, she'd write down his voicemail, she'd help him out, whatever it was that he needed. And she'd go back, and 2 weeks into his business trip, she just can't hold back anymore. What's in this second drawer? What does he not want me to know? And she opens up the drawer, and she sees the largest amount of cash she's ever seen in her life. She thought they were broke. And she starts counting out the money. She's counting out. He has in cash in his drawer over $250,000. And right next to the cash are 7 eggs. The eggs. She doesn't understand. She closes the drawer. She's gonna pretend she never saw what was inside there. Her husband comes home 2 weeks later. They have dinner together. He notices that something is a little off there. He says, what's going on with you? What happened? He says, no, I don't want to tell you, but I looked in the drawer. He says, you didn't look in the drawer. I said, I looked in the drawer. I said, what is going on in that drawer? I said, why do you have 7 eggs in the drawer? He said, let me tell you a story. So when I got married, I went to the rabbi after our wedding night, and I went for advice on how to live a happy relationship. And one of the things he told me was that when I get mad, when you make me mad, when you upset me, when you embarrass me, when you do something that really upsets me, not to fight with you, but to go to the refrigerator, to take out an egg, and to put it in the drawer. And so that's an incredible thing. Wow, so in all these years we've been married, I've only made you upset 7 times? He said, no. So that's what the cash is for. I sold all the eggs. I have $250,000, and I'm waiting for the next dozen to be able to sell it too.
I heard that before. It's very cute. Very cute.
Very funny. It's a
Yeah,
good joke.
very cute.
Sometimes in life, though, like how much do you expect me to? But there must be some form of communication, and putting eggs in a drawer is not a way of communication. You might take issue.
Right. Yeah.
You might take issue with this teaching, but this is a teaching from my rabbis. Part of respecting one's wife, specifically one's wife, not a husband, lizaher me'od me'elbona, to be very careful not to humiliate her, not to embarrass her. And he quotes the Rashi, Rabbi Shlomo Yitzchaki, from France, who says, "The ziluta de'itata, the humiliation of a woman, kashya midegavra, is harder than that of a man. Sheisha b'tiv'a mitbayeshet v'ne'elevet yoter kasher ma'ish." This is, you have to tell me if it's true. It doesn't have to be.
Well, if we get insulted by the teaching, we'll know it's true.
That when a woman gets hurt, she gets insulted much more than a man does. She takes it more personally than a man does, deeper than a man does. You feel this is true? I'm willing to hear
I
a
think
fight
it depends
about
on the man. And the women.
And the women.
And the women. It depends.
I think
Women are more sensitive generally than men.
But some men are very sensitive.
Oh.
Some, but
Some
are those,
men are
but are
very
those
sensitive.
the
Well,
outliers?
So what are we saying? Well, she used the word generally, and you
Right.
said some, and I believe this is a very important rule to understand the words of our rabbis. Our rabbis very often stereotype. They do this a lot. Their condition for stereotyping is, for example, our rabbis will often talk about Minashim ba'ohel tevorach. My wife should be blessed among all the women who are inside of her tent leading the world. And this idea that there are many women who their place that they want to lead their family from is inside of the walls of their house. But there are women who are not like that at all. Now in our Tanakh you find two models. You had a Sarai Menu, she was the princess of the world, who never left the four walls of her tent. You had a Dvorah, the prophetess, who led the Jewish people to war. A prophetess who governed the whole Jewish people sitting under her palm tree, who she was the ultimate leader of the Jewish people. And our rabbis tell us, you
And
can't.
she was a convert.
Dvorah was not a convert, to the best of my knowledge.
Ruth was a convert.
Ruth.
Ruth was.
Ruth.
Sorry, yeah.
No, sometimes people know things more than I, but this one I don't think it was.
I knew one of them.
Dvorah.
Yeah.
So what is a woman supposed to do? What is her path? And our rabbis say both. Both are valid options. Both are valid options. But our rabbis felt that, at least in the times that they lived, that many women fell into the category of Sarah more than into the category of Dvorah. And maybe the world is changing, could be things are different than they are than what they used to be. But when we generalize, obviously any generalization is too general. There are always going to be exceptions to this rule. You're always going to have that man who is more sensitive and that woman who is a little bit less sensitive, more gruff, has thicker skin. And each person and their character traits and their personality they come along with. But I believe the bottom line here in this whole paragraph is respect. If I don't respect you, people can be loved, they can be cherished, they can be pampered, but they're not respected. They don't feel that they have a say in this world, in this life, in this. Who wants to live in a life that they're not valued? That they're not cherished, that they're not appreciated, their opinion is not valuable. There used to be. You ever watch the old mafia movies? Yeah, these Italian guys running the whole world, and they'd go kill people, and then they'd come home, and all their wife knew about was pasta and meatball sauce. They were not involved at all in the dealings of a family and the business, and they didn't know anything.
Nothing.
And this attitude, it's not just an Italian thing, but everybody in the world. I mentioned a certain kind of genre that is familiar. That's not a normal way to live your life. How could it be that you have a job, you have a profession, that your spouse doesn't know anything about? I'm not saying that because your spouse is a psychologist, you're also a psychologist. But if you don't know the first thing about psychology, you mean his career is he does whatever he wants. That's not my thing. It doesn't have to be. Nobody asks it to be your thing, but at least when he comes home and says, listen, man, I had an interesting case, I had something, at least to appreciate it. Your wife is a teacher. And I had once a husband come, I have to do so much work, she's always cutting out papers and she's grading things and Your wife is a teacher, this is what she does for a living, she's changing kids' lives. So when she comes home and she has to do a little bit of homework and grade some papers and cut out some stars to stick on some kid's back when he helped out in the class, you don't even have the beginning of an understanding of what she does. You don't appreciate what she does. You don't appreciate the path that she's chosen. I take it personally because as a rabbi, I have so many of my friends that have been married to people, and you'll know this in your own life. There are many rabbis that are married to people who are just rabbis' wives. They're not rebbitzins. They're not. Forget like that passive partner. They're not even the passive partner. They don't want to have anything to do. They don't come to the synagogue. They don't want to come to the classes. They're not involved. It's his job. It's his thing. They don't pay me from the synagogue. I don't want to be there. And she's right. It's like any other career. But do you know how many people end up compromising on the things they could be doing in the world because they have zero support from their home? Someone's going to medical school and they get married. And their spouse gives them a hard time. 7 years we're going to be living on a bare minimum wage. You married a guy who's in medical school. You know that's what's going to happen. A few years down the road, you'll never have to worry again about paying your bills. But for right now, you married each other. Respect who the other one is, what the other one does. And sometimes I wonder if you can't do that, why did you put this person in that situation? Why did you marry a person you can never respect? Why do they deserve to live their whole life feeling like a nobody? It's not fair. You want to live like a nobody? Good for you. Why subject somebody else to that kind of treatment? kavod, respect of each other. Love is important, but love comes from respect. Respect doesn't come from love. When you really respect someone, you appreciate a person, you become obsessed with them, you become in love with them, you become, they're your world. But first you have to appreciate them. Avraham Avinu, I spoke about him. Avraham Avinu was crossing over into Egypt with his wife. The Midrash tells us that he looks down into the river that they're crossing over, and he sees her face. It says for the first time. Obviously not for the first time. And he says, wow, I never knew you were so beautiful. You never knew you know how many years they were married? They were like in their 80s when this story happened. How many years they were married? Only now he realized she was so beautiful. But Avraham Avinu, it's the one that he says that he loved his wife. Our rabbis say that's the whole point. He loved his wife regardless of whether she was beautiful or not. His relationship with her was not contingent on her face, on her hair color, on the way she looked, on the way she dressed. He loved her because of who she was. Wow, she's beautiful? That's an added benefit. It's not what I was after. It's not why I married you. It's not why I came into this. I just had a girl say, I want a shidduch, I want to get married. I only want a tall, skinny, blonde guy.
What?
How do you know that from all the millions of people on this earth that you're going to end up with, that he's going to be blonde? Forget tall and skinny. He'll be blonde. Maybe he's going to have brown hair. Maybe he'll have white hair. Maybe he won't have any hair. Maybe that will be... That's what your decision on finding your spiritual life partner for the rest of them is tall, skinny, and blonde. Let me tell you something. After you marry him, chances are him being skinny is not going to last forever. Tall, you should see people 80 years down the road. They don't stay so tall.
Shrink.
Blonde, everybody's hair color changes at some point in time. That's what you're looking for. And then 5 years later they complain, I can't believe it. I married this tall, skinny, blonde guy. He's good for nothing. Of course, somebody could have told you that 10 years ago when you were looking only for a tall, skinny, blonde guy. But it's incomprehensible to me. But that's the way the world works. You have somebody on TV and this guy, I love him. He's so handsome. I wish I could marry him. How in the world can you marry somebody you only saw on TV? You know, forgive me for speaking about politics. Not American politics. Bill Cosby.
Ugh.
When the world discovered whatever it was, I don't know. I'm on camera, so I don't know if Bill Cosby is guilty. I don't know. I don't know what happened in the lawsuits. I don't know. I'm just. When the world discovered, how could it? He's a family guy. How could it be? Then the world was up in arms. The guy was an actor on TV. His job is to pretend to be a family guy. That's his job. Who of us didn't laugh and didn't smile and didn't love his shows and his comedy and his humor? Nobody's taking away that he's a good actor, but he's a paid professional liar. It's like you see some guy in all the action movies, he's a general, he's going to war, single-handedly killing everybody. And you see him in life, he got beaten up by a 13-year-old. Because he's an actor, he's not a real general, he's not he's not Moshe Dayan, he's a little, that's what he is. His whole life is a professional liar. So why do you get so worked up when you find out the professional liar is really good at lying? It shouldn't hurt you so much because the expectation shouldn't be so high. But when I come into a teenage boy's room and I see all these posters of people that he's in love with, that word that he's using so much is so sad. That's what love is. You don't even know the person. Adam Rishon says, V'yada et Chava ishto. He knew his wife. That means that they were intimate together. But he knew her. Because how could he be intimate with somebody you don't know? I'll end off with a thought about respect. Respecting somebody else must always come from a place of you respect yourself. If you don't respect yourself, there's no way in the world you're going to respect somebody else.
I think that you hit the nail on the head.
Bullies, most often are people who were bullied by somebody else. And you normally think somebody who's been abused wouldn't abuse somebody else. No, they know how bad that is. But very often when a person on their own, I don't love myself. How can I love you? You asked me to love you at least like I love myself. I hate myself. So I hate you too. That's where the person's coming from. When a person doesn't value themselves, their whole world falls apart. Our rabbis say that the first temple was destroyed because of 3 things. What are the 3 things? Idol worship, sexual promiscuity, and Lashon Hara is the second Beit Mikdash. Murder. Avodat Zarah, Gilui Arayot, Ushfichut Damim. And I once heard a Kabbalist explain that these three things are connected to each other. If you don't believe in Hashem, you don't believe in you are a divine being, the chances of you having any kind of self-esteem are very slim. Because you're just another piece of meat walking around in this world. If you don't appreciate yourself, the chances of you appreciating somebody else are very slim. How do you end up murdering somebody else? When you've already murdered yourself. This Kabbalist was sitting in a room. When he shared this teaching with me, I once heard Rabbi David Aaron ask a room of college students. He said, how long would you have to know somebody before you let them drive your car? How long? So one guy said, a month, a year, 6 months, if it had good car insurance. Somebody said, I would never let my friend drive my car. Everyone had a different answer. As Rabbi Aaron said, and why is it that you're so willing to let somebody into your bed when you knew them for an hour and you don't even know their name? That's how much you value yourself. But your car, you have to know somebody for a year before you let them drive your car. Your car is more valuable to you than yourself, than your dignity, than your sexuality, than your intimacy.
It's the insurance premium. They have an accident.
But I'll tell you the
That's
truth.
what they have writing for.
The truth is that this is the bottom line. If I don't respect myself, the next step is that I'm so disrespecting myself. I'm always putting myself in compromising situations. Compromising somebody else's life is so easy to do because I don't love myself. In order to become the best partner that we could be for somebody else, we have to become the best us that we can be. We have to love ourselves the most for somebody else. We have to treat ourselves with so much respect. Value who you are. You're in a professional field. You're having a certain life. You're in a certain social sphere. You're in something that you do that is important to you. Make sure that you really value yourself. Don't say, I'm nobody. I'm just another person. You're not just another person. If you were just another person, we wouldn't need you here. You're special. You're unique. Appreciate yourself. The flaws that you have, you embrace your flaws. No, some people, they don't like the way their nose looks. Okay, but I made peace already a long time ago that my nose is going to be like this. But forget, don't tell me a plastic surgery right now. Some people don't make peace with their nose. But I made peace with my nose. So now I meet my wife and she has a nose that I don't like. Well, just like you made peace with your nose. And you love noses without any conditions. You can't love her nose. It's a silly example I'm bringing up. But how many people are so critical? My wife, she's so overweight. Have you ever seen yourself in the mirror? You ever looked in the mirror before? You're so busy how she looks and how she dresses and how you walk out of the house and people, they cringe when they see you. It's something you have to speak harshly sometimes to people. Start loving yourself. Start valuing yourself. Start respecting yourself, and it will only become natural to value and respect the person who is closest to you. Without that, you cannot have the other one. B'ezrat Hashem, if you're blessed with a new year, God willing, I'll see you next week on Monday.
And I still teach this in the classroom.
If someone has to arrange a classroom for
I
me,
think you should
I would love
teach
to.
it to the movie makers.
I'm going to start in high schools
I made
with
peace with my
Maryland.
white hair.
I love the white hair. I have to tell you, I really do.
Make peace with it.
I made peace with my own
I love
hair.
it.
You should know. I want to mention, in Jewish
love it.
tradition,
You didn't like it
I said this on
at first.
No,
Shabbat.
I didn't, but I like it now. A
In
lot.
Jewish
Is it
tradition,
great? I get
there are certain
No.
there are certain benefits you get
As I say not as I do.
in Jewish law. There's certain benefits you get when you're old, when you're considered old.
What's old?
You get like
Oh,
a senior
very good.
pass.
White hair
No,
is
there are
not
certain. So the question is, what is considered old? Is it age? Talmud says no. Is it hair color? No. What does the Talmud say? If you agree to be called grandmother without being embarrassed about that word, you're considered old.
Oh, I'm old.
Okay, I'm old.
Wait, in a positive way. You get
I'm
all the
old.
benefits
I'm a
that come
baby.
along
I'm
with
happy
being
to be a
old.
baby.
And I'm very proud
So,
of it.
and what does that mean? That means
I
I embrace that I'm this age, and I'm very proud of it.
I'm very proud of it.
I don't want to be
Great,
I
20.
like being a
Discount.
baby.
Yeah, I love having
Everyone have a beautiful day.